Welcome back once again
to the Professional Lovers Married at First Sight recap.
I'm Al.
And I'm Patty, and we are the Professional Lovers. And it's week 2. We've got a few more couples that have gotten married tonight. And so there's not a whole lot to unpack with what's going on as they took their first trip down the aisle and saw each other for the first time. But before we get started, just for those who are new, we've gotten some new subscribers.
Yes, welcome.
Glad to have you with us. And we talk about relationship issues through the lens of Married at First Sight. And we enjoy facilitating relationships and sharing our own personal experiences as we talk about the different issues that these couples face and will face as they build this marriage relationship. So that's what we're here to do, and that's what we will do getting started right now.
Let's do it.
With our first couple that got married tonight, Stasha and Nate.
Cute energy.
Cute energy. The friends talking to them as they're, dress shopping and talking, amongst each other or with the mom or whatever, and expressing their concerns about, their friend. When she was talking about how she, is concerned about his expectations of her as a wife, and how she, wants to make sure that, that he's not going to try to change who she is, right? And that she wants some compromise with that. And her friend pipes up and says, well, what are you going to compromise on? Because you always say no. And she was like, Me? I don't always say no.
Always say no.
And just laugh it off. But, for someone who's as independent and self-sufficient and...
No isn't something that is often compromised when you're the driver of your own truck.
And she's had to drive her own truck to be a self-made, successful person.
True. Entrepreneur.
She has a lot of drive, put herself through school with no school loans, which is huge, and that's very important to us. But, so when you have done that your whole life, because isn't she the same one who emancipated herself from her parents?
From her mother, yes.
So she's had this self-sufficient drive
from
her entire life, and it's going to be hard to pull that back.
But when you're that independent, you can find yourself willing to do what you need to do when it comes down to dealing with someone else, because you are in control of yourself. So if it comes down to compromise, you know that it's your choice to do so. Especially
when you feel he or she is worth it.
True. Exactly.
So hopefully she'll feel that. Nate, of course, expressed concern that she would understand and be patient with some of his little quirky habits or insecurities. But he doesn't display a lot of insecurity.
Yeah, he's...
And at the wedding, it was a little tinge of arrogance in how he dealt with her, and but they did a lot of joking. Now, to me, what was different about the banter between Alexis and Justin, which was really just playful. These were more like personal jabs.
What did you term them? What did you term them?
I said they were personal joke jabs. Joke jabs. And what I mean by that is when you're joking, but you're not joking, but you're joking, like you're saying what you really feel in joke style. And so as she was describing how clean she was.
Yeah. And the cleanliness of her house.
Looking like it's a model home or stage. And she was up front with it.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay, you're nuts. You're nuts. You're nuts.
And she did a couple of times.
And she did just that. She laughed because, you know.
She knows that it's true.
Yeah.
But he was a little forward with it. I mean, you know, to say things something once, something twice. And fortunately, it was all taken in stride.
Right. Which is a good thing.
Yeah.
And when they were describing, when the minister or the officiant was reading about Nate and said he could be a Devo, and she knows she's a diva.
She got one eyebrow up.
Yeah, so the personal joke jabs work if they're taken the way they're given.
They're intended, right.
My concern is that at a certain point, it will not be taken as a joke. Because you can say something as a joke or make a jab as a joke once or twice, but when it starts to become repetitive.
Well, actually, at that point, I mean, after the joke jab, I mean, I think if it's that much of an issue, I think it should become a discussion.
Right.
You know, don't just let it linger on as a joke, because eventually the joke gets tiring and someone gets uncomfortable with it. So just have the discussion.
Well, that's when it should become a discussion,
right,
if it starts making you uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes. But right now, they're, as all the couples usually are, with the exception of a few, they're happy and joyful about what the experts have given them. So.
And everybody's pleased so far.
Exactly. Alexis and Justin, we got to see them taking their pictures and got to see them in the reception. And the one thing that kind of bothered me was when he shared with her that, the question was, when was the last time you kissed somebody? And he said it was a year and a half. And of course, that in itself was, kind of shocking to her. Wow, you've never laid your lips on a person in a year and a half. And then he said, I've actually
been celibate for a year and a half.
Celibate, and
she was like, I mean, she was stunned. And I'm hoping that it was kind of a nervous, response to it, because when he told her that, she told the rest of
she hollered that out loud.
He's been celibate, and I'm like, whoa, that was something intimate. I mean, really, and to me, that's intimate. That's about as intimate as it can get, especially getting to know a person.
And I was going to say, to a stranger.
Yeah,
that is intimate information that, for me, I found it a little disrespectful that she blurted that out to everybody publicly, to her girls. She was blurting it out to her girls, but of course, anyone who was around would hear that. And I didn't quite understand that one. Yeah, it hits a little nerve with me, because I feel that when anyone makes a decision to not go society's way when it comes to sexual activity, whether you are a virgin until you're married, or you're a virgin until you decide not to be, or you choose to be celibate, that some people make it a negative thing, like you're weird, or you're inferior, or you're naive, or you're dumb, or I mean, how can you miss out on life? And she said, I don't know if I don't want to have to struggle to have sex with my husband. You don't even know why.
You ran there with that, and
that really annoyed me. I have to say, that idea that something's wrong with him because he chose to be celibate, instead of he decided to take sex off the table to get to know himself, and to, and to not be caught up in just sex as recreation.
And see, now the thing about it, that's kind of weird. And now understanding where she comes from as the female male, and being looked after by her male friends, but having, a squad of men around you, you tend to say things, you just tend to blurt things out. You say things off the cuff or whatever the case may be. Now, I find it ironic that a woman would find that strange for a man, but if it was a woman doing it, it would be almost understandable for a woman, or more accepting for a woman to do it.
To choose to be celibate?
Yeah. Than a man would be.
Well, and again, that all fits into this whole societal thing.
Yeah.
Narrative about men and women and sex and, what's acceptable, what's not, because you're a male or a female. And I think it's short-sighted. And so for her to just blurt that out to her girls was...
And it was cut off. I mean, as soon as it happened, there was no more coverage of it. So I don't know if when she said it, there was another response behind it to say that it was admirable or whatever the case may be. But the shock value of it right from the beginning, it leaves a negative connotation as to how it was done.
Yeah.
And why.
Yeah.
So we shall see. Although we did see something a little later on where she bit his bottom lip, and I think that year and a half is going to come to a quick halt.
And she'll understand. Hopefully, she'll see that his celibacy has nothing to do with his ability to satisfy her. Lindy and Miguel. All right.
Fun union.
As she was getting her dress, her friends were talking about how she tends to overthink and over speculate, and which ends up making her extremely anxious. And she was worried that she wouldn't be able to connect, but they seem to connect quite well.
Yeah, they hugged at the altar before even being introduced.
Right. First couple to do that.
A little longer than anybody else had ever done it. I mean, they hugged longer than most folks shake hands, which is cool, but it lent toward their appeal for one another.
Right. So sparks started flying. He even took out his Dragons and Dungeon cubes and started introducing her to his world.
Passion. Yeah, what he does.
Yeah, but
and she thought that was cute.
Thought that was very cute. So
at least right now.
So they have, met and feel good about the meeting, and so we'll see. And her mom and brother came to support her. Dad didn't come, was not supportive, and just found out tonight that her parents are divorced. So, but I'm glad that she had some family there to actually support her through the process. Morgan and Ben, unfortunately,
did not
get married
because Ben caught COVID.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah. It does.
Because we've had one other couple that happened to on the honeymoon.
Right.
At least this time they found out before the honeymoon. And unfortunately, And so it's delaying the wedding, and it's going to shorten the honeymoon. And I know that it was disappointing. But Morgan kind of caught me off guard when she speculated that she wondered if this really was COVID or was it just cold feet, and he lied about having COVID. And I'm like, what? Why do you even need to go there? Just to start off the whole thing with, is he lying? Anyway, but one thing that she said as she was dress shopping and everything, that she's thinking that if he's the right one, that she won't really have to change her life. She was talking about, well, now I've got to consider him, and I might not be able to do this or do that. I might have to change my whole life. And, but if he's the one, then I won't really have to change. And that's a myth.
Yeah.
You're going to have to change. You know,
You're going to change.
Do you change the essence of who you are?
No.
No, but are there improvements you can make?
Yeah.
Yes.
And there's concessions that you'll end up giving into for the simple fact that you're now sharing life with someone else.
Right. You know, when we got married, he was a huge, you know, in his single life, he played basketball all the time.
That was my wife.
After work, it's basketball. Meet the guys at the gym. Meet the guys on the court, outside, whatever. But when we get married, I'm not going to require him to stop playing basketball. But does it need to be every single day after you get off work?
Well, eventually you realize that certain things that you have as a youth and passion for,
or as fillers,
especially, yeah. Well, no, I mean that wasn't a filler. I mean, that was what I did.
But were you in a marriage relationship?
No.
During all that other period?
I waited until I was broke up.
Oh. That's why we got married so late, because he wanted to be broke up.
No.
So he wouldn't have to, you know, choose me or basketball. That's all right.
But she wouldn't have enjoyed being a basketball wife.
We don't know.
No.
Not every day. Not when I was working in Baltimore and you were working in D.C. No, you're right. But anyway, all we're saying is that there will have to be concessions. There are compromises. But you'll want to make those if you feel he's worth it, she's worth it.
True.
The companionship is worth it. The love that they're showing you is worth it. It's not going to be a hard decision.
No, it's not. And actually what you will do, and whether or not you have to actually ask yourself the question, what's worth more to you? What you do or who you're with? And, you know, what you do can come and go. It can be a passion one week and never thought about again. You know, basketball was something that I had in my youth, you know, but I knew that eventually, I knew even before meeting her that, you know, it eventually would no longer be part of my life, at least not playing it anyway, because the body breaks down, it gets old, and, you know, but a relationship builds even as you get older and as your body breaks down. There's growth even in deterioration. So, you know, a relationship can be for a lifetime.
Should be.
When you get married, it should be. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. All right, our last couple, Kristen and Mitch. So, Mitch had his meltdown. He described himself as a cut and runner. Again, described himself as commitment phobic. And feels like being married is going to force him to the highest level of commitment that he's never had. Well, he's only engaged in low commitment relationships. So being married is going to lift him up and force him into the highest commitment.
I mean, that is the highest commitment, but it's not like, I mean, you make it seem like it's on another planet somewhere, and, you know, they don't have real air there.
Or that he's magically going to be able to accommodate. Magically.
Yeah.
So, anyway, as he was getting ready for his wedding and getting his hair cut and his beard cut, and he had a meltdown about his beard being too short, and so hopefully those were nerves, and not indicative of how quickly he can melt down about something that's...
No, actually, I think he's short like that in a lot of different ways.
We'll see. Kristen got all dolled up except for her dress because she had to talk to her daddy,
who she told the day of the wedding that it was a wedding that he was being invited to, and would
to someone she's never met.
That and asked if he would walk her down the aisle.
First he said, "You're insane.
You're insane. You're insane."
And then I don't know. So of course we knew that that's where everything was going to end.
Drama.
On that note to see. And of course we're hoping that even though he thinks she's insane, that he will be willing to support this experiment. Yeah. Because he knows his daughter and he loves her. So we'll see.
We shall.
Last week we talked about, season 14 couples, and we talked about Noy and Steve being the only ones married. And thank you to Deborah, and thank you to Miss Perkins for reminding us about Katina and Elijah
Yes.
who are still married as well.
Yay.
And actually going strong and married, because in a week's time we have discovered that Noy and Steve have divorced. So, Katina and Elijah still married from season 14. And thank you to those two viewers who jogged our memory about that. Many of you said in your feedback, too early to call couples, but we still going to call our couple of the week for this week out of everyone we've seen, and a red flag couple. So...
And who's yours this week?
My couple of the week, I'm going to say, I'm going to say Miguel and Lindy. I think that they had the best kind of
introduction.
Yes. And
to each other.
Yeah. I think that I like them this week in their meeting. Yeah.
Well,
your couple of the week?
I'm still going to go back to Justin and Alexis.
Okay.
Because she bit his bottom lip.
Okay.
So.
Red flag couple for me? Mitch and Kristen.
Okay.
Mainly because it's Mitch.
Well,
I'm not convinced that he'll be able to step outside of his habits. He's been doing them a lot longer than everyone else at 41.
The eldest.
Yeah, so I'm not convinced that that's going to go well.
Well, that's a runner-up for me, because I'm still going with Ben and Morgan, because I just don't see them. I just do not see them. I mean, nothing, each individual, I just think he's kind of young-minded, even though he's an engineer, but I think his exposure to common life, has been limited. And I don't really think he's ready for a woman yet, especially a woman kind of like Morgan, who is extremely independent.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that there's anything wrong with independence or a strong-willed woman. I know I have one, but and I don't want them to explode, but I think that boy's haircut is going to come off the top of his head, and he ain't going to understand why. Because he doesn't see anything wrong with, being freaky frugal.
And a mama's boy.
Yeah.
Well, so we'll see. So your red flag couple, still Ben and Morgan. Yeah. Mine, Mitch and Kristen. So we'll see. How about you? How did everybody come out to you this week? We want you to let us know in your feedback. Thanks to everyone who we're glad to see us come back, and we're glad to have you, and we're happy to be talking together about season 15 of Married at First Sight.
Yes.
So we'll see you back here next week. Until then, we want you to love yourself and
each other.
There you go. Bye.
Peace. Enjoy.